Hello everyone, Helldiver here, and I'm going to go over real quickly how to do a default landing. Now, the orbiter you see here doesn't have any cargo in it, so your target spot will probably vary based on what you're bringing back. Now, normally I start my retro burn someplace around a desert. You'll notice here where I stop just short of that kind of mountain area there in the middle of the desert. Now for the target in which I'm going to do my retro burn. Now the guide says just somewhere close to that island northeast of Kerbal Space Center. Based on the different configurations and changes that we've done to the KSO since we released it, that spot has shifted a little bit. So now I normally target just forward, just past that island, about 2 to 3 island lengths away from it. And again, that spot will vary based on how much weight you're bringing back. This is assuming an empty shuttle. Turning around. Normally as I descend, I keep it right on the horizon. If you want to make the interior light up a bit more, you can go right to the buttons that say flight deck and click there, and it'll turn on more lights inside the vehicle. Now the ADI you see there, that's mostly to help you with landing. It's not really useful when you're in space. For that you'd probably use the nav ball. One thing to note is that the landing gear status lights will be on even though your landing gear is inside. That's because the status lights are assuming that your gear is out back when we built the shuttle in the vehicle assembly building. Of course, we put the wheels in so that they won't clip into the tank before launch. So you just got to remember to hit the G key or whatever your default key is for your landing gear once at least, so to prepare them when you get close to the runway. Another thing I usually do is I'll test them first by extending them quickly and then bringing them back in just to make sure. The landing gear do create drag on your shuttle, so you want to deploy them close to the runway. You don't want to deploy them too early because they will drag you down and slow you down. Looking down at the crew deck, the Kerbals are pretty happy. The galley and the food storage. These are the mission specialists. Their beds. As I come down, I normally do very subtle changes. I turn off the other two main engines, and I will use the main engine in case, I did my landing target too short. I'll burn a little bit. Also, you want to make sure you're not coming down with too much fuel, because it will change your return profile. Once I start burning in, that's normally around 30,000 meters. I normally go back down to normal speed, game speed. I tend to have better results that way than to having the time times 2 or something. I shut off the other engines and just leave the top main engine on. Now in this reentry, I shot a little too far. So as I come down into KSC, I do an S turn. You'll see some folks on the forum do this. And that just bleeds off some speed and some distance, and of course some altitude. It's always better to overshoot KSC slightly than to undershoot it. Although the grasslands just short of KSC are fine for landing. I've landed there before and haven't broken the shuttle. Use a little bit of air brake to bleed off more speed. The air brake's bound to the number 3, or to the brake, or to the B key for your brakes. I believe in version 6, it's no longer bound to the brakes. But it could be a good idea to help you once you've touched down and you want to slow down even further. And of course we're coming in a little too hot. So I bleed off some of that speed and some of that altitude by basically turning away slightly. I did have enough distance to come completely around and land on the other side of KSE. But I wasn't sure if I would make it. And that was probably cutting it a little too close. So instead I, do a short or a quick turn right and then, turn back. You want to keep your controls subtle. If you bank more than 60 degrees, you will lose control, especially at this altitude. It's kind of difficult to recover. One thing you can do if you need more, if you need to be able to pull up more, is you can turn off the SAS. And that'll allow you to pitch up more in case you need to recover or something. In this case, I didn't turn it off because I didn't need it. Just as a heads up, I will deploy the flaps here. They're just visual. For those folks using FAR, I believe FAR does flaps. Currently, the KSO, I don't believe, is configured to take advantage of flaps. We're definitely thinking about it. We're definitely thinking about adding that capability, but that, again, will only be for FAR users. And that would be the Ferrum Aerospace mod. So I bled off some speed, some altitude. Now I begin to line up back with the runway. From this point forward, it's pretty much like flying an airplane. And again, I kept a little bit of reserve fuel. I deploy my landing gear. You normally want to deploy it around this spot here. Again, the landing gear will slow you down. I deploy flaps. Again, they're visual. They don't have an actual purpose. They don't provide additional lifts, which is something I'm hoping for. Some plugin author could create a plugin or something that allows us to deploy flaps and give us more lift. Lining up with the runway. Using a little bit of yaw. I did hit kind of hard here. Now you want to let the KSO settle on its own, gradually hitting brakes. So as you can see, I'm hitting brakes. If you turn off SAS, you can easily lose control and the KSO will roll over and break apart. So you want to let it settle on its own and then turn off SAS. It'll help with that rotational torque that's causing you to tilt backwards. You want to come in with at least 90 in your fuel tank or less. In this case, I came a little heavier than usual. I increased the steering multiplier just to get me to turn around and taxi back over to Kerbal Space Center. If you feel it's too jerky, you may want to turn it back down. You definitely don't want to increase the steering multiplier when you're going too fast. Otherwise, you can easily lose control. Turning the brakes on, prevent it from rolling away. Now I came in with a little more liquid fuel, so sometimes it'll want to tip on its tail, so here I burned off a little bit. Make sure that when a Kerbal EVA is out, the KSO doesn't tip over. And you can adjust how much fuel you want to go up with in the vehicle assembly building.